Hey, folks, here in Colorado at Prophecy Watchers Conference, ran into my good friend, J.B. Hixson, and we're going to be talking about his new book that he has come out with. And it's always good to pick your brain. You're very deep, you're intellectual, and you take us to places that a lot of people don't get to go. So I appreciate all the work you're doing. So, JB, what's this new book called? What's it about? And you're going to be speaking about this, right?
I am, yeah. Thanks for sitting down for a conversation here. Thanks for coming to our home state.
I know, right?
Colorado,
but
yeah.
you guys are turning into California.
Oh, we're
big time.
Yeah, I call it the People's Republic of Colorado. I mean, it's definitely there. But anyway, yeah, it's been a great conference. Loved your message, which was earlier today at the time we're recording.
Sure.
But yeah, we premiered my latest book, Fade to Black, yesterday at the conference here. And it's Fade to Black, Rise of Global Tyranny. And I use the same framework in here that I did in my Spirit of the Antichrist series, which is I take the 7 spirits of the Antichrist. Well, what are those? Well, let me explain. So 1 John 4:3, the spirit of the Antichrist is already at work in the world.
Yeah.
So what I did is I went through every passage in the Bible that speaks about the Antichrist, collated all the characteristics of what that future man of sin is going to look like. And then I put them into 7 categories, of broad categories of his characteristics: deceit, power, perversion, those types of things. And so I call those the 7 spirits of the Antichrist. But those books, my Spirit of the Antichrist original series, came out in 22 and 23. It's amazing, Brandon, how much has happened just in the 3 years since. So I took those same 7 spirits and I said, what's happened in the last 3 years? It is head spinning when you start thinking about it. So we talk about how really the stage is being set like never before for this ultimate Antichrist, who we know won't really be identified and rise to power until after the rapture.
Right.
But certainly the stage is being set as we see it all around us.
So lead us in some teasers about the book. I don't want you to give the whole book.
Yeah, for sure.
What are the stage settings are we seeing that you point out?
Yeah, so the whole premise, my wife, by the way, came up with the title. And the whole premise is sort of that entertainment industry term, fade to black. The movie is over, the screen fades to black, the credits roll. And so the tagline is, the movie hasn't really ended, it's just getting started. And so from a satanic perspective, from the Luciferian earthly accomplices perspective, they are, they're ready. They're putting all the pieces in place. So obviously the big one would be technology.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So we know from Revelation that, the Antichrist is going to try to feign omniscience and omnipotence and omnipresence. Obviously, Satan indwells the Antichrist. This is Satan's shining moment. He's been trying to take over the world and be God since his failed coup attempt in heaven. And so this will be his sort of the apex of his agenda, is to finally say, basically, I'm God, worship me. He'll never be God. He certainly is not omnipotent or omniscient or all those things. So technology gives him the ability for that full spectrum planetary tracking, hacking, and bushwhacking, as I like to say. So I think technology and AI in particular, because Brandon, they've had the bit buckets and the data centers ever since social media and really the internet. I mean, they've been tracking it. So they've got a bit bucket on you. They've got one on me. What's new in the last 2 or 3 years is the advancement of AI that gives them the ability in real time to actually harness that data and use it instantly. So for the beast system, to be able to not buy and sell without permission, that's the kind of technological backbone that they're going to need. And so I think this is one of the biggest ones for sure.
So let me ask you on the tech thing. It seems to be accelerating with AI. It's like we became a catalyst for this. The average person out there, not in our circle, but just the average Christian, in Christendom, he's got to say, what does it matter, JB? I'm not doing anything illegal, so I don't care if they track my phone. I don't care if they track my buying and selling. What do I care? I'm not doing anything illegal, so why should I be afraid of this? What's the reaction? Your reaction to that?
Well, it's hard not to react viscerally and get a little angry, to be honest with you, because it goes to biblical anthropology. My son Morgan, who's our production manager, we co-host a show every Friday called Crossfire Friday. He picks the topics and everything. We just did one on capitalism and the biblical concept for capitalism. And while not everything about capitalism is biblical, fundamentally it's about individual human rights, the right to own property, the right to. So God made us in his image, and that means that we have inalienable human rights. And one of those is the right to privacy, right? And it's not the government's right to know everything about us,
Sure.
whether we're behaving or not behaving, right?
Right.
It's the Spirit of God that convicts believers of what's right and what's wrong. It's not the law. I mean, Paul makes that clear. The law never made anybody righteous.
Yeah.
The law cannot really make you do what's right. I've never seen a stop sign uproot itself from the intersection and stop your car, right? So it's the Spirit, the law written on our hearts, as we read about in the New Testament, that makes us do what we do. So it should concern everyone, and we need to flip the script. Why do they need to know what I'm doing? It's not, well, if I'm not doing anything wrong, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what everybody said, 20 some odd years ago when the Patriot Act was rolled out. It's like, we got to get the bad guys, and we do. We need to definitely hold people accountable. There's some really bad cats out there, terrorists that want to destroy this great country, but at what cost? You know. So it's the famous Jefferson quote, or maybe it was Franklin anyway. Whoever would give up security or give up freedom for security will neither have neither. So that's a paraphrase, but so I think it's fundamental. If we had a benevolent government and everybody was God-fearing, born-again Christians who wanted what's in our best interest, say, for example, like a Christian parent raising teenagers. We've got 6 kids. They're all adults now and gone. But when they were younger, hey, you're a child. You're at our home. We're in charge. We're going to control your media. We want to check that phone every now and then. That's fine.
Yeah.
Because we're Christians and they're young. They're beholden to us. But I'm not beholden to the government.
Right.
And not only that, but of course we all know that there are plenty of bad actors in the government that aren't wanting to do what's in our best interest.
So let me dive a little bit deeper into that. Because they'll come back, and the argument that they're making, look, we don't want drunk drivers, JB. We don't want people speeding and causing accidents. So we're going to put monitors on cars and governors that if it goes too fast, it'll slow the car down. It'll cite you a ticket or whatever. I was in New Zealand, and there's no highway patrol because they have cameras everywhere. And the camera picks up if you go over the speed limit. And it'll register a ticket to you. So they don't need even highway patrol anymore. And so, JB, the argument from the government, and I want you to speak to this is going to make our world safer, JB. Why would you be against technology if it's going to make things safer? No more cartels, no under the table money.
Yeah.
Come on, JB. This is going to bring peace and security.
Yeah, so it's classic Hegelian dialectic, which goes back way before Friedrich Hegel. I mean, Machiavelli in the Middle Ages was using the same principles. It's never about what it's about. So what they do is they use a pretext. So they start, for example, with, well, you don't want your young people looking at filth and being targeted online, right? We want to protect the young people. Don't you love children, Brandon?
Right.
Of course you go, well, yeah, we do. And then, great, give up all your rights. So that's the problem. So digital ID, same thing. Even things like voter ID or the wall. I mean, my friend, journalist Leo Holman, who I love, he's not afraid to call it like he sees it.
Yeah, he does.
And he's been way out front on all this kind of stuff, saying, look, those walls that keep out the criminal element, they can also keep us in.
Sure.
Right. So everything has an ulterior motive. Not everything. Obviously, there's some real organic things that actually are for our good, but the notion that controlling, say, like the highways, what a lot of people don't realize, just go back to red light cameras before they even had the speed things. Nowadays, cars are programmed where if you're going from point A to point B and you get there faster than you legally should have been able to at the normal speed, they'll send you a ticket. And that's happening in America too, in bigger cities.
Yeah.
So the red light cameras, what people don't realize is it's not about keeping us safety. It's about generating revenue. Most of the companies that run those red light cameras aren't even U.S. based. First of all, they're not part of the municipalities. It's a private, they contract it out. And they're not even in America. They're not even helping our economy.
Really?
Oh yeah, for sure. And so that's why if you don't pay them, and I'm not recommending you don't pay them, if I ever get one of those, I pay it.
Yeah.
I don't want the trouble. But if you don't, you end up getting harassed, letters and stuff. Eventually they hand it over to a debt collector. It's not like it goes on your record because it's not part of the municipality's criminal justice system. So it's never about what it's about. Does it make us safer? Yeah, but at what cost? So,
Right.
same thing with the digital ID and, the voter ID. We want only American citizens voting, but once they got that data, then they can easily use it against us. And maybe fast forward, if the Lord tarries and we don't go home at the rapture, we've got some really bad people in power. They're already talking about it in the midterms with Trump's approval rating so low. We could see a huge shift,
Sure.
which could be devastating from the sort of the woke moral side of things.
Yeah.
And then they start hurting Christians. They've got the data, they've got the cards.
Sure.
They can tell where you went online or where you did what. So yeah, there's plenty of arguments, I think, against those who say, well, I'm not doing anything wrong and I want to save the children. So what's the big idea?
Yeah. No, they always soft sell it like that. And you're right, the Hegelian dialectics at play. So what's another facet that we should be looking for that you bring out about the setting stage for the Antichrist and his rule?
Yeah, so several of the spirits that I talk about, like the spirit of perversion, for example. We know the Antichrist is going to be a sick individual. He's the whole gender surrender movement was at Satan's behest. I think it's one of the more demonic movements of our day because the image of God in man is male and female. It's part and parcel to the Imago Dei.
Yeah.
And so if he can marginalize gender, then that plays right into the hands of the transhumanist agenda. The embodied AI does not have gender. So they're making gender seem irrelevant or trying to, so they can condition people for all of these little embodied AIs, which separate subject, but I think that relates to the mark of the beast. Maybe we can come back to that.
Yeah.
Or the image of the beast, I mean.
Sure.
But yeah, so I think what we're seeing with the Epstein files, what we're seeing with just satanic ritual abuse, all of this on the rise it's almost like almost every mainstream TV show or movie has that element of just real gross perversion.
Yeah.
And remember, perversion in scripture isn't just of a sexual nature. That's kind of the way we connote the word in English. But perversion in the Bible just means turning things exactly opposite. Good, calling good evil, calling light darkness. It's just taking God's divine design and twisting it so that the very thing it was meant for good becomes evil.
Yeah.
And so we see this in so many facets. I think that's paving the way for the debauchery that will characterize that unholy trinity in the beast system. But yeah, several others. Power is a big one. We know that Psalm 2, David says that the kings and rulers of the earth are conspiring to break God's control, right? To take off his binding. So Satan has control issues. His issue is he wants it. God has it, but he'll never get it.
Yeah.
But he and his earthly co-conspirators are just using brute force. I have a chapter in the new book called "Freedom is as Cold as Ice." Icy. It's a play on words.
Yeah.
I deal with sort of the other side of the commentary about all of the ice stuff. Look, we want the bad guys rounded up, no question about it. But what people forget is that while the bad guys came across the border in exponentially increased rates under Biden, it wasn't a new concept. Every administration, Republican or Democratic, has had open borders to a greater or lesser degree.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it increased so exponentially under Biden, to me, is more of a time indicator that we're getting close. They needed more so than just a philosophical change. And so, in one sense, it's great that we're seeing the current administration put a stop to that and try to do something about it. But this notion of wearing SWAT gear and hidden masks and coming down the streets with tanks and pulling pregnant women out of their bed in the middle of the night in front of their children who are crying. I mean, that aspect of it to me is part of the spirit of power, just conditioning us that you have no control. And again, I support our law enforcement officers. I think they have a tough job because it's a lose-lose for them. Somebody's always going to complain. I get that. And we have a lot of great God-fearing, Christian, patriotic peace officers out there. But just remember, if it were you that they were coming to drag out of bed because you're a Christian or because you posted a Bible verse also, would we be as much cheering what's happening? So It's never about what it's about.
Well, we saw a little bit about that during the Biden administration, where FBI was going and arresting those who were standing in front of abortion centers, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so
that
we already
was-
saw kind of a preview of
Yeah.
that, a little bit of that kind of power move of targeting Christians. So let me ask you this: there's a lot of people that are naysayers. Okay, they're like, you guys really believe that there are people working behind the scenes to bring a global cabal? You mean that there's people that want a global government and they're seeking to upset national sovereignty? Where are these people? Who are they, JV,
Yeah.
Brandon? Who? What do you mean?
Yeah.
What? Speak to that.
That's a great question. I love talking about that. So first of all, let's dispel some myths. There is not some monolithic CEO of the Luciferian conspiracy
Right.
calling the shots in a smoke-filled room.
Right.
It is very messy. It's very confusing. Satan's the author of confusion. We know this because the Bible says God isn't, so that only
Yeah.
leaves one candidate. And so that's the reason that he hasn't gotten any further than he already has. There's competing agendas.
Yes.
There's backstabbings. There's betrayals. There's evil. And frankly, a lot of people that are pawns in this evil global elite game, they may not have any idea that it's a satanic in its nature. They're just in it for the money, for the power, for the sex, whatever.
Sure.
So, but no question, from a biblical perspective, we know that the Luciferian conspiracy exists. What is
Mhm.
that? It's a conspiracy is just two or more entities working together to do something bad. The greatest conspiracy of all time is Satan, his evil celestial beings, fallen angels, and human accomplices, Psalm 2, working together to take over the world.
Yeah.
That's the cosmic battle. I mean, Paul says we're not wrestling against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers. We're going to see the apex of that during Daniel's 70th week.
Sure.
When Satan indwells the Antichrist. So the Bible is what matters most. What does the Bible say? We know the concept is real. Does that mean that every bad guy is sacrificing children and drinking blood in some
Right.
back room? Of course not.
No,
It's very messy.
Yeah.
But there's definitely, I believe, in the upper echelons, there's a small number of Luciferians who literally worship Satan the way you and I worship the Almighty God. They
Yeah.
pray to him the way you and I pray to the Creator, and they take their marching orders from him. And we're going to see that get worse and worse, 2 Timothy 3:13, until God says enough's enough. He's ready to pour out his wrath
Yeah.
on this earth. The church is promised to be rescued before the great and terrible day of the Lord's wrath, so we'll be rescued when that trumpet sounds. Then everything, the spirit of phenomena, that's another big one. It's the biggest chapter in the book.
Okay. Talk about that.
Yeah, the signs and wonders. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
Your message, I love what you had to say there about the conditioning through the disclosure concept. I have a whole section on that. I'm going to talk about it in my session tomorrow. There's no question that a real unseen realm exists, and I believe that's what, as you so emphatically and rightly said, that's what UFOs are. They are real, but they're not little green men from another planet.
Exactly.
You know, they're a manifestation of the demonic realm. But just because they're real and represent Satan's army on reconnaissance missions, trying to kind of scout out things, doesn't mean that he's not also going to use a false narrative about that as an explanation for the great deception after the
Sure.
rapture.
Absolutely.
They're not mutually exclusive. Because sometimes I come across people who say the whole UFO, narrative is just one big made-up story. There's no such thing. And I'm like, no, it's
Yeah.
real.
It is
Not
real.
all of it. There's hoaxes. But
Sure.
conceptually. So I go back, and this is the point I make in the book, to World War II. And so a couple theological principles to begin with. We know Satan can't be everywhere at one time.
Right.
Only be at one place at one time. Same thing with his demons.
That's right.
So I believe that as World War II came to a close, first we had two significant bombs in August of 45 that went up way up into the atmosphere. I think that caught the attention of the celestial realm.
Sure.
Whether either Satan himself or some of his demons said, "Whoa, what was that?"
Yeah.
Satan says, "Go check it out." So they all flood to that area of Japan and then Europe, and then they're following around. Then you have all the talks coming out of World War II about Israel. That definitely perked up Satan's ears. He goes,
Yeah.
Israel, they play a key role in this, in the biblical plan, which Satan knows. He just doesn't believe it. He knows it very well. So that caught his attention. So I say the dawn of the modern UFO era, which started most people say 1947 with Mount Rainier and Roswell,
Yeah.
corresponds with these types of things where Satan starts sending up more and more of his demonic army for reconnaissance missions, preparing the way. And that spirit of phenomena has gotten worse and worse and worse in other areas, and in just the cryptids and other strange supernatural beings, the paranormal.
Yes,
That kind of stuff is just flourishing.
it
now.
is.
And so I think that's another sign of the times that Satan is getting ready for something. Now, let me just quickly add, God is the ultimate arbiter of the time.
Right.
So the Luciferians may talk about 2030 or this or
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That's their blueprint, and it's helpful to know that. But God decides when we move to the next phase.
Yeah, and you mentioned that the demonic world realizing, okay, Israel's back in the land, humans got nuclear capability, and them obviously knowing the scriptures as well, that a lot of these prophecies have to have Israel in place as a nation.
Absolutely.
And okay, so now we've got to the point to where the U.S. government is going to do a disclosure. Okay, and you're going to mention a little bit about that. I touched on it just a tiny bit. And you and I, we've been prepping our churches for this, but the point I was trying to make is a lot of churches, the stats show 12% only believe Satan is real.
I know.
They don't even believe demons exist.
Yeah.
Oh, that's back then. So JB, what's the reaction of the modern day Laodicean church when they hear Trump says, hey, you know what? We got alien spacecraft. We got a hybrid program. Matt Gaetz or whatever came out and said we have a hybrid program.
That was huge. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
A hybrid
Yeah.
program.
Yeah.
What is the average Laodicean, note guys what I'm saying, Laodicean, gonna see that as?
Yeah. So most Christians today are sitting ducks for deception. They have no discernment. They are backslidden at best. In my previous book on the Great Last Days Apostasy, I talk about how in the Bible, apostasy has two senses.
Okay.
Thanks to the Roman Catholic Church in the Middle Ages, most people hear apostate, they think hellbound, unbeliever.
Yeah.
And that's certainly true. And on any given Sunday, I think churches across America, evangelical churches, are filled with unbelievers who've never placed their faith in Jesus Christ for salvation. But there's also sort of not fake Christians, but faltering Christians.
Yes,
right?
I agree with you.
And that's what you were talking about with sort of the Laodicean spirit. And these are believers who are not walking in the Spirit. They're not in the Word of God. They're not being fed in a Bible teaching church. They'll be in heaven someday because they're born again, but they're certainly not going to be rewarded very well. They're not living the Christian life. And that's the ones who, because of this conditioning, are probably likely to buy into the aliens from Zeta Reticuli concept.
I know.
Rather than the fact that this is a spiritual war. And so it's important for pastors to, a lot of pastors won't even touch, end time stuff at all, for one thing. But even if they understand pre-tribulationism, they don't want to talk about UFOs and the spirit world and the phenomena and all that because it's too edgy, it's too out there.
Yeah.
I think that's a mistake.
I agree.
I think it's biblical. We have to lead into it. We have to, the question isn't, do UFOs exist? That question was settled long ago by the evidence. The question is, what are they? And the Bible has the answer. So you've got to point people to the Word of God to prepare them for what's coming.
Well, it's good. That's excellent commentary, because my thing to these people that don't believe in Satan or demons, then what's the point of the spiritual armor and spiritual warfare? Who are we fighting if we don't have an enemy? It's made up?
Yeah.
It's crazy. Okay, let me ask you this on this question. So we're in the last days. What's your opinion on Satan always preparing a guy for the spot?
Yeah.
What give us some understanding on that?
Yeah. So Satan obviously doesn't have God's timetable.
Yeah.
Right. So John the Apostle, toward the late 80s, early 90s of the first century, he said under the inspiration of the Spirit that the spirit of the Antichrist is already at work among us. And while one Antichrist, capital A, is coming, many Antichrists are already here.
Yeah.
So Satan has to be ready at every generation with his man of the hour, ready to step in and take the help. For example, that could very well have been Hitler. Maybe it was Mussolini. Maybe it was Mao. Herod. At every stage, he's ready in case the Lord calls the church home, which indicates we're now moving into the end times phase. And so I think he's got his Antichrist ready. So in that sense, it's totally speculative. But as I look at the signs of the times, I see the spirit of the Antichrist rising. My opinion is, I think, the rapture happens in our lifetime easily, if not in the next 5 years. Now, I'm not,
ready.
I'm not a date setter.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm ready.
saying, me too. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do it.
Let's do it.
So that being the case, if that's right, we don't know, but if I'm right in my speculation, that means the Antichrist is alive today.
Yeah.
So we don't want to play pin the tail on the Antichrist, right? That there's no real merit in that, but just knowing that from Satan's perspective, he's got a guy marked out. Because I still think, by the way, the Antichrist is going to be a human being. I know there's some in our camp that think he's a Nephilim.
Yeah.
I understand the whole seed war thing. I get the arguments. It's fun to talk about in a good-natured way, but I think all the passages definitely speak of him as if he's a human being.
Yeah.
A man.
Okay.
And so I think he's alive today. I would be my opinion.
So you've done a lot of work on the Antichrist. So obviously, look at every passage. Okay, so last question, and I got to let you go because I won't go too long. But this is a funny one. But the genetic. Okay, he's a human being. Does he eat hummus or does he eat spaghetti?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I know, but people, because what the people have the whole Islamic Antichrist, and I get that theory. I get what they're doing. I'm personally, and we can agree to disagree. I'm personally believes he eats spaghetti, guys. So I don't know. What's your take on the genetics of him, and according to what you've read in Scripture?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure he eats either. First of all, I think he's probably on the keto diet because that thing is definitely satanic.
That's right.
But anyway, just kidding. No, I think that first of all, to close the loop on the Nephilim, I do think there are hybrids here. That's a class of celestial evil being. Genesis 6:4 says they definitely existed after the flood.
Yeah.
I don't think it's because the offspring of that unholy incursion made it on the ark. I don't believe that for a second. And some people in our camp do. Maybe you do. So I don't.
No. But
I mean, righteous means righteous in my mind.
Yeah,
but there are any number of ways that they could appear after the flood, and it could be a second incursion. Any number of ways, but text says they're here. So I think for all this time since then, we've had different classes of celestial evil beings. Satan, of course, is the fallen angel, the prince of demons. His genetics, he's not human, right? And so we have to know our biblical anthropology. Satan himself is not human. The Antichrist is human in my view. There are the bloodlines that run way back of the Illuminati and the Satanists and all that. I think this man, whoever he ends up being, is part of that bloodline, but I think he's a human being. And I think he's evil to the core. Satan will indwell him. It's only 2 times, Brandon, and you know this, in your audience I'm sure does too, only 2 times according to the biblical record, when Satan, the prince of demons, personally indwells a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly, both times it's in connection with the eternal Son of God coming to earth to put on human flesh. So obviously Judas was the first one. Satan's like, okay, he's come to my playground. He's in my backyard. I got him where I want him. I'm not delegating this to one of my legions. I'm taking this one myself.
Yeah.
And he thought he'd won. He got Judas to betray him. He crucified him. But of course, 3 days later, hallelujah, Christ rose from the dead and satisfied the wrath of God, and Satan shrieked in horror. The next time, in my view, based on 2 Thess 2, is in connection with the second coming.
Yeah.
Satan sees the rapture. He sees things unfolding. He sees the wrath of God pouring out. He says, okay, abomination of desolation at the midpoint. I'm taking over. I'm not delegating this. I'm going to indwell this man. And so, this is an evil man to be indwelt not only by a demon, but by Satan himself.
Yeah. So there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Good answer, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Awesome. Where do they find your information?
Yeah,
Where do they find this book at, man?
Awesome. So notbyworks.org is our website. You can just go to notbyworks.org/fade to black. It's available everywhere. We've got it on our website, on Amazon. You can get the audio book. You can get the Kindle version. But check it out. I think it's very, it's got a lot of very current critical information as the stage is being set.
Sweet.
Yep.
Thanks for producing all this stuff, man. You are producing good material that's edifying the remnant. So thank you for all the hard work. I know how hard it is.
Well, ChatGPT, I mean, it's amazing. It's funny, real quick, Mondo wrote one of the blurbs on the back, and when I thanked him for it, he said, jokingly, well, ChatGPT knows you well. And I responded, it should, it wrote the book.
Right.
Neither is true, but we
Right. But that's the problem. We got even pastors like ChatGPT's preaching the
I
sermons.
know.
Isn't that nuts? It's crazy. Crazy world we're in. Guys, plug into JB's ministry. You're going to be blessed. JB, keep doing the great work you're doing, brother.
Thank you, my friend.
Love
Appreciate
you,
it.
man.
Yep.
And guys, just like the Lord said, when you see these things begin to happen, just like what JB is saying about the rise of the Antichrist and the table getting set, look up, lift up your heads, for your redemption draws near. God bless you guys. We'll see you next time.